And finally, consider this. The week after next in Cooperstown, baseball's COVID-delayed Hall of Fame induction ceremony will take place for Derek Jeter, Ted Simmons, and Larry Walker. Also to be honored, posthumously, Marvin Miller, the longtime head of the Players Association. Under Miller's intelligent and principled direction in the 60s and 70s, the players, until then powerless over the direction of their own careers, gained free agency, one of the most significant developments in baseball history, which also had a ripple effect as other leagues eventually followed suit. Some in baseball never forgave Miller for how he beat the owners at every turn in negotiations. Not that he was ever especially charitable in his own assessments of the lords of the game either. And while Miller could at times be too unyielding and doctrinaire, in the big picture and in his time, he was right, and his influence was monumental. There's no denying he's one of the most significant figures in the history of the game. Despite that, Miller always believed he'd never join the various executives enshrined in the Hall as long as he was alive, and as long as baseball officials would have to listen to his acceptance speech. In fact, Miller's prediction came true. He died in 2012 at the age of 95, and only now, 9 years later, will his place in baseball history finally be recognized, but not properly, since he won't be there both to accept his honor and speak his piece. And that brings us to the player most closely associated with Miller, the late Curt, the all-star Cardinal outfielder of the 60s, who hit .293 lifetime, won 7 Gold Gloves, and was an important part of 3 Cardinal pennant winners. Flood was a distinctive player, and an even more distinctive individual, well-read and with a variety of interests, which included his active participation in the 60s civil rights movement. And when, after the 1969 season, the Cardinals traded him to the Phillies, Flood decided he wouldn't go. He had his reasons.
It's been a master and slave relationship. As long as you do what I say do, you're fine.
Flood's cause was taken up by Marvin Miller and the Players Association, and eventually went all the way to the Supreme Court, where it lost on a narrow vote. Still, a statement had been made, an important one, on the long path to players' rights, even if Flood himself would never reap the tangible benefits. He'd play only 13 more games in the majors. By that point, a broken man, both emotionally and financially. Baseball, and the museum where its history resides, can do better by Curt Flood. This is not an argument for his enshrinement as a player. He was an excellent player, though not quite Hall of Fame great. But there exists a perfect answer. Years ago, a special committee enshrined 17 previously overlooked players and contributors from the Negro Leagues. And somehow, they bypassed Buck O'Neil. Their focus was too narrow. They looked at statistics alone. Buck O'Neil's significance and contribution to the game was so much greater than mere numbers. Storyteller supreme, contemporary of Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson, treasure trove of baseball and Negro League history, a national treasure who was the most memorable presence in Ken Burns' baseball documentary. How could they not see all that? Well, Buck was too gracious to say so, but the snub hurt him and embarrassed the Hall, which quickly found a way to remedy the injustice. A statue in Cooperstown and a Lifetime Achievement Award named for O'Neil, to be given only occasionally and only to those whose overall contributions to the game merit it. Buck himself was the first recipient. Rachel Robinson is among the select few who have received it since. Curt Flood absolutely fits the profile of a baseball figure worthy of the O'Neil Award. And now is the time. No need for the Hall to be constrained by technicalities or myopic devotion to process. There are 12 days between now and induction day. Just do it, by acclamation. When baseball gets it right, it can be both moving and meaningful. The All-Century Team, baseball's role in the aftermath of 9/11, the Field of Dreams game. But sometimes, baseball gets it wrong. They got it wrong for a long time with Marvin Miller. Here's a chance to, at least in part, make it right. Miller and Flood are gone, but on September 8th in Cooperstown, they can be symbolically reunited, honored together for their enduring place in baseball history. It would be a perfectly fitting gesture, and the kind of grace note Buck O'Neil himself would approve and applaud. We're back on the record next month. See you then.